Greetings, and welcome to part 2 of the Universe at War No Optional Units Built challenge. This is the hierarchy. As I've discussed in the previous video, the hierarchy function a bit uniquely, and what I mean by that is they use units for basically everything. Walkers and Reaper drones will not be counted as units for the purposes of this video. I will not commentate this first mission because you're not supposed to build units anyway for the most part. You get a walker given to you at one point, but I don't produce units from it. It's not an overly complicated mission. I do have to be careful because Orlok can take a lot of damage and he's durable, but it's hard mode. Enemies do a lot of damage. You get infinite grunt reinforcements, I believe. Even if you don't, it's not too hard to wander back and forth with Orlok. Siege mode is fantastic and is one of the main tools of this part of the challenge. The hierarchy section of the challenge is much more difficult than the Novus. Novus overall was fairly easy, not too difficult at all. There were some chokes at some point and I made a few errors, but there was no situation that seemed truly dire, except for the science walkers, but once I played it through, it wasn't so bad. I'm not going to spoil the result of this challenge yet, and whether or not this challenge becomes what is the minimal amount of optional units required, but I will tell you that the hierarchy is harder than Novus, even with walkers allowed. The hierarchy have a fair few missions or sections of missions where you don't build units anyway. Even on a couple of maps where you can build, you spend about half of the game not building anyway. And that's because you can't do it, because you haven't got the means to. So, those parts are easier, but the hard parts are harder. Walkers are incredibly powerful, but they're not backed up by units, and walkers can get focused down pretty quickly when there's no units to back them up. It's surprising how quickly they can go down, and walkers are just harder to micro than units anyway, so that definitely makes them less efficient than you would think they are, but they're still incredibly powerful. The main strategy I'm going to be using is Orlok's siege mode. I'm able to drain resources from the map essentially to refill his rockets. I'm going to refer to them as rockets, and using those to deal massive damage from a long range is going to be very, very helpful, obviously. And I don't need the resources for anything else, so there's no worries about attrition and losing the war of attrition. So you see I quite freely use some rockets, and it's not that big a deal. The mission overall is very, very easy, so let's go to the next mission and see exactly where the challenges lie. For this next mission, it's relatively simple overall, although I do get a jump scare. I'm going to make Reaper drones, obviously, and I start off with some monoliths. Monoliths aren't very good. They're fantastic at scouting, but they suck at everything else. They're not good at hitting things. They're just perfect for teleporting to backlines and being annoying and scouting, because they can teleport unlimited distance. I build a lot of Reaper drones in order so they can fight things off in order to keep them safe. They're not the worst at fighting. I forget how auto-gather works, I'm a bit stupid, but I adapt. The main strategy for this map is simply going to be making a bunch of walkers and running them everywhere. This challenge without walkers would be incredibly, incredibly, incredibly tough on this map, because you have to go through a lot of crap, and it's humans and Novus. And although humans suck, and they're not very good, it's still just more crap in your way. So what I'm doing is I'm using the Reaper drones to gather the resources, and I'm just trying to hold out whilst I get my walkers built up. Usually you'd summon a few more units and you'd build them up so you can have a little buffer, but that's not something I can do. So I build a couple of turrets, but I don't want to over-invest, because on this map, you get a lot of resources to the north when you come across some cows, but once you run out of those resources, your Reaper drones have to go into enemy territory to gather resources, and that gets tough because they can take out your Reaper drones and that can be a nightmare. And I can't not gather resources because unlike Novus and Masari, I can still drown in money, but I don't have as much money as you would think because walkers to fully kit them out are very expensive and there's not much point sending a walker in that's not fully kitted out. I'm being told to build a detection drone. I'm not. You don't have to for this mission. It's usually a good idea to build a detection drone, but I'm classing it as a unit for the purposes of this challenge, so I'm not going to use it. Orlok's almost dead because he got aggroed weirdly, and the troops didn't help, which is kind of crap. I'm going to send in 3 walkers altogether. I'm drowning in resources for now because I ate the cows, which obviously is fantastic, but if this walker push fails, then I will be in dire straits. I won't have the ability to gather many more resources. Hierarchy are interesting in gathering resources. They have the ability to gather the quickest if they can get civilians and the towers that can be instantly sucked up and cows and wildlife, but if they don't have access to that, they're kind of slow at gathering resources. Now, this is counterbalanced somewhat by the ability of Reaper drones to fight. They're not the worst at fighting. They're not fantastic, but they're not the worst. They can definitely defend themselves, particularly against infantry. And interestingly, as they do damage, they actually do drain a minuscule amount of resources. So that's kind of nice as well. I've geared up these walkers, and because I have excess income, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to take any risks, I'm just going to throw the walkers in, and if they die, I'll recalculate the situation then. I do spread them out, which in retrospect is an error. They should be together for maximum efficiency, because they can, if you have a walker on its own, it can be focus fired. If you have 3 walkers, they can't be focus fired, and thus it's just more efficient. But I was feeling myself, it's not the hardest mission by default anyway, and the AI, an advantage that I do have in this challenge is the AI does not focus hardpoints the way that a player would. The way I kit my walkers out is I go maximum plasma turrets and maximum armor, just to give them longevity. I should probably kit them out with a couple of anti-air turrets. You can do that on the leg hardpoints, but I don't. I should, but I don't. Now all of my walkers are converging on the same area, and oh, we've got a video bug. Wow, I must have had a recording issue. That's a bit of a freeze there, but no big deal. So the walkers are just proceeding across the map, and this will be easy. There's not much more to say. For this mission, I'm not supposed to build units anyway. This is a completely normal mission. I make one error. I overestimate Orlok's power, and I send him to destroy the machiners, the Masari vehicle production buildings, and he just dies. I horribly overestimated his power. Heroes are broken, but not that broken. So I did fail once, and on my successful run, I don't play like an idiot. I just simply walk in my units correctly, and it's a simple mission. On to the next. Now for this mission. This is one of the missions which I alluded to earlier. I can build, except I'm walking around for most of this map without building. This is one of those maps in which I actually get to use sources because I get given some sources by Novus. I didn't build them. I capture the fuel pumps because they're there and it's a bit of something. I miss Micro Orlok, but that's fine, he's healing. And rather than running in Lost Ones to pop the boxy, dark hole bomby things, I just decide to use my siege mode to do it. It's good enough. It doesn't mean I don't have to mess around and it's nice and simple. Meanwhile, I'm gathering some resources for my eventual base because I can start massing turrets and then I can build walkers and I can finish the mission. Until that point, it's simply a matter of proceeding. It's not hard. There's not that much in the way. It's more an inconvenience than anything. There is a way to cheese this if you really wanted to. As a casual player, you could just not proceed to the base and that would not set off the flag to start. And then you gather even more resources from the fuel pumps. But the thing is, you have infinite money, casually speaking, anyway. I kept the purifier at the back and it gets sniped a bit. It's taking a lot of damage, and I didn't account for them just running at the purifier. So it gets low on health, but all the sources come in. Thankfully, that was very good timing. And I'm able to repair the purifier. It takes a while, even with 5 sources. But now I can heal Orlok as he's fighting, and it's very handy. This is very, very good. I spoke about this before, and it's very useful. It's simply a matter of progressing through the mission. Orlok takes a lot of damage, and this is one of the things I was alluding to about how the challenge can be very difficult. Just taking so much damage. A tiny error, and that's that. But I've prioritized healing Orlok. It's good. It's the right thing to do. The purifier is basically at full. The sources can heal each other, which is handy. And I'm going to cut to the bit where I actually reach the base, because you don't need to see me trundling my way up there. Okay, wonderful. I reached the base. This is fantastic. Novus gives me control, and now with my mountains of resources, I'll be able to build up and assault the enemy, and it'll be nice and easy. Right? Right? Well, that was the plan. And then something goes horribly wrong. I'm not given a Glyph Carver. I have no way of building, period. I'm not allowed to build units, and I cannot build buildings. Oh dear. This was a real wrench, and I panicked. I was like, oh, well, I've got to go, because I will lose the war of attrition. I will just get whittled down, the odd unit will die, the odd hardpoint will get taken out, and I'm going to fail, because the enemy is kind of aggressive in this mission. They actually come for you quite often. So, this is me, I'm slow reacting, because I'm thinking about what to do, and then I realise I just need to kit out the walkers I have, and that's me just like looking at the Glyph Carver, taunting myself. Why can't I build it? Ah! So I kit out the walkers, and I decide to go all in, because there's nothing else to do. I can't turret creep. I could try sieging with Orlok, but that would be incredibly slow. So instead, I decide to just go all in. I just walk everything over, absolutely everything, and sack everything else. I think I even walked the Reaper drone in, just for a tiny bit more damage. I walk in the detection drone, which I got given. That's partly for vision, but also it's to sponge some hits. The AI might hit it a bit. I keep the walkers close to the sources, or the sources close to the walker, more accurately, just for longevity. And I'm keeping Orlok safe, but I also need him to contribute, because I'm on the clock here. I am on the clock. And it's very interesting to be straight up on the clock like this. So I just walked the walkers in, and I was so worried. I thought this was mission over. I thought I'd left it too long. But, as you can see, fortunately, I am able to just overwhelm, thanks to the walkers. Turns out what you're given is plenty enough, and I use the sources to focus on repairing Orlok for a bit, then I switch back to the walkers, and I sort of go back and forth. I prioritise Orlok because he is the lose condition, and I fortunately am able to just squash the base, but I really panicked at the lack of being able to build anything. This mission is another one where I'm not supposed to be able to build units or anything anyway. It's obviously possible. The only thing of any real interest is that the end of it is a bit scary. Orlok almost dies, my units get split a bit, but I'm still able to complete it with minimal issues. It's very slow, I play it safe as I can, but it's entirely possible, and I win. There's nothing more to it. Now it is time for the final hierarchy mission. Oh boy. Oh boy. This mission is incredibly tough. This could be the end of the optional units built challenge, and it may turn into what is the minimum amount of optional units required to complete Universal War Earth Assault. Why is this hard? I have a single Glyph Carver, which isn't the worst for hierarchy. They're not that reliant on having multiple builders. They like it, obviously, but it's not the worst. It's not as bad as having a single constructor or a single architect. Because hierarchy have this thing where their stuff just has more oomph per square inch on their buildings, and the walkers obviously. But they don't need to spread out their builders so much. But I start with very little resources, and I have barely any units to work with. And this is a map where there is a lot of stuff to fight through. There is just a lot. There is another problem I have. There's not that many safe resources, and there's a severe lack of stuff I can instantly suck up for big amounts of income. There's not a field of cows, there's not that many people. It's kind of crap. However, Zessus is with us. He follows Orlok, and you can send your units to the east of your base to get them teleported into the fight, but that's just stupid. It's not useful in the slightest, and you shouldn't really do it in casual play. Maybe for speedruns there's a way, I don't know, but there's no point in doing it, and it doesn't teleport walkers either. And I can't make units for Zessus to teleport anyway, and I'm not going to teleport the few that I have. There's just no point. So, Zessus is with us, he's invincible, and he gets infinite disciples with him. However, he only follows you so far, and the only way to actually get him into combat is to make him teleport into combat, but I'm not going to risk my Orlok like that. It's awkward to build walkers, there's not much space to build them on. I'm looking at my current research upgrades to see what I should be going for, and the only thing I can do is kit out walkers, but there's a big problem here. The enemy has a bunch of walkers surrounding the objective. So it's going to be walker on walker action, but they get a bunch of units as well. I have a Pittance and Orlok. Zessus is kind of nice. The only time I'll use the teleport function is to get him into the fight because he is invincible. But Zessus has this problem where his attacks can just miss Up close, Zessus is incredibly powerful. He might be the best hero in melee range, except for maybe Karos. He's incredible, but at range, he misses, which is bad. But it's not so bad when you're playing against the AI, because they don't manipulate the ability to dodge it. He doesn't teleport unless you make him teleport by going to the highlighted area. So he won't do teleport shenanigans for you. A strategy you can use of Zessus is to teleport the enemy next to your turrets and then just watch them all get blown up instantly. That's certainly a thing you can do, but he doesn't. What I choose to do is I choose to use my Glyph Carver to make a bunch of turrets, and I'm alternating Splitter and Gravitic, Splitter, Gravitic, Splitter, Gravitic, to keep my base safe from any potential enemy assaults. And I position Orlok such that he will protect the Reaper drones, and Zessus is there to help as well, which is nice. However, there is a caveat to this. Zessus in light mode, which is the only mode he's in as your teammate, he has this explodey thing. It's very powerful. He knocks off a chunk of his own health, and he does really big AoE damage, which is really good. The caveat, it destroys surrounding supply areas also. That's kind of crap for me, because I'm already skint. There's not many resources to go around for me. There's a few good stashes not too far away, and Orlok and Zessus can keep them safe, but he's still limiting my income. It's still reducing the total amount of money I've got to work with. And once I run out, I'm out. And I cannot be overly efficient on this map, because they just have walkers that I have to attack. I could try running back and forth with Orlok, but that's just incredibly inefficient and risky, and it exposes my Reaper drones. And I'm not prepared to mess around with that, especially since I can never repair these Reaper drones. I don't have access to sources. Anyone wondering about repair chambers on assembly walkers? Nuh-uh. They only repair the walker they're tied to, and that's that. So I build a bunch of assembly walkers, and what I do actually is, I thought this was quite clever. The enemy has an arrival site in the top right of the map, and I figured, why don't I just limit the amount of reinforcements coming in, rather than running straight for the transmitter. If the enemy decides to run walkers at the base, then I lose, I guess, but I don't know if they do that, and I'm going to assume they don't. I've never seen it happen. So I'm pretty confident in what I'm doing here. And I'm continuing to build up the base defenses to make up for the fact that Orlok, neither walkers are at home. And I'm going to have all my walkers in combat, so if they do a backstab maneuver, I'm well prepared. This is crap. A walker just gets stuck on the cliff. It's just completely stuck. I can't do anything with it, and I'm just like, oh, you've got to be joking me. So I just sell it. And I get an absolute pittance back. I almost accidentally sell my Glyph Carver. Here's the problem with selling walkers. In PvP, if your walker's gonna die anyway, sell it. Get some of that money back. But you don't get the money invested on the hard points. So I only get the base cost of the walker back, reduced by the percentage. I think it's half you sell stuff back for. So I just lose a bunch of money due to that, and that was really frustrating. My walkers are already up top, so I just let them do their thing. They're plenty powerful enough to take out the arrival site and the turrets, and I'm still gaining resources. But you see Zessus blowing up again, just limiting my income. And I'm upset by this. I'm really frustrated now. I'm just like, Zessus is fucking with my income. My walker got stuck, so I had to sell him, so I got no value from him, and I lost a bunch of money. I don't even want to know how much I lost. This is a crap start. So now I march the walkers towards the transmitter, and my third walker that I've just built again, is going to go en route to the transmitter. I think I've limited the enemy's reinforcements now, but it turns out I don't, and they just fly in reinforcements from time to time from nowhere. So I'm hardcore on the clock. Eventually I will be overwhelmed. I've got enough money to function for quite a while, and the enemy has science walkers. I think they come with mind control magnets, which for once I'm kind of happy to see, because I have no units to mind control. The only ones I've got are at my base, which I'm reserving for the last bit of the mission, which I think is what's going to be hard. So my walkers are just kind of shooting. I'm not bothering to micro them too much. They're walkers. They just kind of do their own thing for the most part. And I'm waiting for them to die so I can build new ones. The Science Walker isn't really much of a threat. The other walkers are. So I'm able to do quite a bit here. I'm still gathering resources and I'm still kind of safe. Zessus only goes out so far away from your base, so I can't really abuse Zessus either. He does get the Disciples, which are handy, and I'm able to keep my Reaper drones alive for the most part. I might lose one eventually. In fact, I will eventually, but I should be able to gather most of the resources necessary. And that's why I was protecting the Reaper drones, because, again, I'm hard limited on resources. I don't get more than what's on the map, and especially with Zessus fucking me up, that's kind of annoying. So I actually use the teleport function soon, and that's to get Zessus into the fight so that he can do something. That's all well and good. I'm kitting out another walker because that's the MVP for me pretty much. I do lose a Reaper drone. That's why I had Orlok and Zessus up there, but now I have to start making a move. I can't just sit back forever. And as long as I've got one Reaper drone, I can still harvest the entire map, so I don't need to protect them too much anymore. The main reason I got multiple was to get a good start off so I could take out the enemy base in the upper corner. Now, it's not that big a deal if they go down. It matters, but it's not that big a deal. So I move Orlok into the teleportation zone to get Zessus into the fight. Shumph, there we go. And Zessus just doesn't do anything if I recall. I don't remember. I think he just runs away. So that's not very helpful. And I'm sending in walkers to cover the area, and Orlok just dies. And I'm angry at this point. I'm just like, oh, he died. I misplayed. I just didn't micro right. And I have to do all of that again. So, I cut out the 15-20 minutes that it took to get back to that point. The strategy was 100% exactly the same. I'm impatient and I get some walkers in too early. That's a bit of an error. Instead of fighting 3-on-3, I'm actually fighting 2-on-3, which is horribly, horribly, horribly inefficient. And I lose a bunch of walkers. It's not very smart. I don't play this well. Obviously, the first part is more than possible. And I'm kitting out more walkers, and this time I have another strategy to stop Orlok from getting overwhelmed so easily, because I just messed up and he just got completely overwhelmed. That's what happened. That was kind of crap of me. That was not well played at all. So, I have the base defenses. It's pretty much the same. I get all of my research going. What is my strategy that I've come up with this time? Well, first of all, I'm gonna not throw Orlok into the meat grinder to die. That's usually a good idea, to not just burn units for no good reason. But the actual strategy, on the less memey side, is I'm going to use my Glyph Carver. My Glyph Carver is going to make me feel a lot safer. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to use the Glyph Carver to build a bunch of turrets around the objective. This is going to be my way of protecting Orlok, because I can't swarm with units. I don't have other ways to meat shield other than my walkers. And Orlok is uncontrollable whilst he's in the transmitter. He doesn't even shoot, so you need to put him into armor mode ideally in order to make him take less damage. But there's a slight issue which you will see soon. So I do manage to take over this area with my walkers, and I am able to destroy the opposing walkers. I destroyed their arrival site again, so they're kind of limited, and I'm just staring at these saucers, just like, I wish I could make these. I wish I could make these, but I cannot, so I do not. And I'm just kind of waiting around for stuff to finish dying, and I'm trying to get them into a good formation, which is a bit awkward with the remains of the enemy walkers. However, this is the point at which I believe I bring my Glyph Carver in, but the problem with my Glyph Carver strategy is, as I take out the saucer to protect my Reaper drones, you can't build turrets around the transmitter. It's unbuildable ground. And I'm just there like, So, I take my walkers to the outskirts in order to secure the area, and I build turrets on the outskirts. The outskirts are buildable areas. And I'm just going to alternate again. I'm going to go splitter, gravitic, splitter, gravitic, splitter, gravitic, splitter, gravitic. And I don't know if there's a flag that starts a massive assault as soon as Orlok takes the transmitter. But I'm paranoid that there is. And I'm just there thinking, how am I going to protect him? If they just bum rush him, I can't heal him. I have no units to draw the fire. What if they just ignore my walkers? So I realise there's nothing I can do about that, though. If that's the case, that is the case. And I used my walkers to secure the area. Now there's turrets which can defend themselves, and the Glyph Carver by extension. The Glyph Carver cannot be repaired, so I took a bit of a gamble. But now that I've got the turrets, I walk Orlok in, and I have all these turrets to block the area to stop units getting in for the sake of safety, and I wander all the units I have got to Orlok in order to protect him as much as I can. It's a small handful, and I realise that I've just wiped the map and it's done. It's not actually all that hard of a mission. I do a bunch of upgrades. I don't know why. There was really no need for that, but yeah, the mission's actually a joke. The mission is an absolute joke. Now that the hierarchy is done, now we need to ask, is the Masari beatable without building optional units? Because so far we are 100% unit built free. Defeating Kamal is obviously not hard. I run Orlok away for the sake of safety, but I just have everything I can focus on Kamal. Because he's the win condition thing. I don't care if their walkers survive. Kamal goes down, that's it. Nice and easy. Hierarchy done. Yes! I just knocked over my cup.